Hi everyone, and welcome back to Stamp with Anna. Today I'm going to show you how to make this really sweet card, Mother's Day card. And it's called an acetate tent card, and that's because it stands up. I don't quite know how to shoot this so that you can see it. It stands up because it has this little notch here, and it has, excuse me, it's shaped like a tent. And it has an acetate window so that you can see right through it. This is one of 3 that I'll be showing you. Excuse me. And it really is very simple to do. So let's get started. What I have for supplies is a piece of Melon Mambo, 4 1/4 by 11. And I'll show you how to cut and score that in just a minute. Then I have a piece of DSP. This is an old piece of DSP. We made this in class, and I'm trying really hard to use up all of the DSP that I have hoarded over the years. So I decided this was a great one to use for a bright Mother's Day. And this is 4 by 5 1/4. And then I have 2 little strips of the same paper. And this is 3/4 by 4. So I have 2 of those. Then I have a piece of the acetate window sheets, which is cut at 4 by 5 3/8, and I'll talk a bit more about that when we get to that part of it. And then I have a piece of Whisper White, which is 4 by 5 1/4. So the first thing we need to do is do our cutting and scoring. And I'm going to use my Stampin' Trimmer, which by now you've all heard is not being carried over into the new catalog. There is something new on the horizon, but it will not be in the catalog. So we'll just have to wait and see. And I'm sure it'll be just as great as this one here. So with our 4 1/4 by 11 piece of paper, with the long end up along the top, we are going to score this at 5 1/2. Then we're going to scooch it down to 6 1/2, and we're going to cut it. Now this is what I told the ladies. It's very important that you remove this piece. This is actually the top part of your card. And this piece here, you want to make sure that it stays in your trimmer. The reason being, this is 4 1/4 by 4 1/2. And if you put it back in, because it looks like a square, the wrong way, your little mechanism down the bottom is going to be off. So just leave it right there. And then scooch it over. I'm going to score at 1. Score at 1 1/2, score at 2, and cut at 3. Save this little piece. You're going to need that later. Okay, so now we have all of our cutting and scoring done. And I'm going to bring in my bone folder because I do want a nice crisp fold on these. Okay, so this, if I bring in my card, is this part of the card, the back and this flap. Now this piece here, we want to fold it along those crease lines, and you want nice crisp score lines, and you want it to make a W. See how that's a W? Okay, so here's our W. Now it's very important that when you fold this accordion piece, these 2 pieces are the same. They butt up to each other, because that is how the card is going to stand up. And if they're not even, the card will tilt. Okay, so here we have these 2. You can see they line up perfectly. So now we want to attach this to the bottom of our card. And again, we want it to stay looking like a W. So here's our W. We're going to flatten it out, and we're going to put some snail along this part right here, this wide part. So I'm just going to put a little bit of snail. Okay, now again, with it forming a W, we're going to attach this right down the bottom. And it is important that this folded edge here lines up perfectly with the bottom of your card. Again, that's how the card is going to stand up. So if you're off and they don't line up, your card is not going to be sturdy. Okay, so we're going to press, and there it is. Okay, because basically this is how your card is going to stand up after we finish decorating it. Now you could have made, or I could have made, these wider. These are just 1/2 inch thick, but I didn't want an inch high peak in here because then you could see it from the outside of the card. You see what I mean? This is so small that you can't see it. If I made this as tall as this to give it more stability, you'd be able to see it, and I think it would take away from the beauty of the card. So now I'm going to bring in my designer series paper, again cut it 4 by 5 1/4, and I'm just going to attach that to the center of this card here. Now when you make this acetate tent card, the order in which you're going to decorate it depends on what you're doing. If you're decorating it on the outside, you go one route. If you're decorating it on the inside, like I did with this one, you go a different route. So I'm going to decorate this inside piece first. I want that whole piece in there. So I'm going to bring in a scrap piece of Whisper White, and from the tea set, Tea Together, which is in the Occasions catalog, I understand that this is carrying over into the new catalog. It's beautiful. It has a nice, excuse me, Happy Mother's Day, and a very nice sentiment for the card as well. And it has these beautiful flowers that you can color in. And it also has this "Love is a warm cup of tea" if you're not using it for Mother's Day. And it does have a coordinating die set. We won't be using the die set today, but I did want to make you aware that it does come with a very nice die set. So with my Melon Mambo, I'm going to ink up my stamp that says Happy Mother's Day and just stamp it in the middle of my scrap Whisper White. Now I'm going to cut this out using the layering ovals. Now this layering ovals framelit set, it's worth its weight in gold. There are 15 ovals. There are straight edged ovals and there are scalloped ovals, and you can mix and match these, and I believe that they coordinate as well with the ovals that are in the Stitched Shapes framelets. But anyway, we are going to use just the smallest straight edge and the smallest scallop. And what I'm going to do is cut this Happy Mother's Day out with the straight edge, and then remember that little piece of scrap you had left over? I'm going to cut that out with the scalloped framelit. I'm going to go bring these over to the Big Shot. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back with my 2 pieces. Now I'm simply just going to layer the white over the Melon Mambo, and it is a very small border. The designer series paper that I'm using is a little busy, so you don't want a whole lot of busy going on, because it'll detract from the card. So I'm just going to drop this right in the center here. Now we're going to attach the other parts of our card. These 2 little strips, which are again 3/4 by 4. One will go right here in the bottom, and you're going to line it up. Make sure that you line it up with the edges of that. And one is going to go on the top. Now, here you can go 2 different ways. In order to make this cute little bow, if you want to make that same kind of bow, you'll need a hole punch. I have Stampin' Up's, I think it's retired, 1/8 inch. If you're strong, you can attach your acetate first and then punch through the 2 layers here, the 2 layers here, and the acetate. Or if you're not strong, you can just punch through here and then attach your acetate after, but you will have a tiny bit of a bubble. I'm pretty strong, I think, so I'm going to attach mine first. I'm going to put a little bit of snail. Now remember, this acetate is 4 inches wide. It doesn't come up to, it's not 4 1/4, so it covers the whole thing. And the reason I did that, it comes in sheets of 12 by 12. And if I cut 4 1/4, I'm only going to get 2 with a whole bunch left over. If I cut 4, I'm going to get 3 rows that I can make 2 out of, so I'll get 6. I'll be getting 6 pieces of windows, 6 windows instead of just 4. So it's just a little way to save money. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to place this down here, okay? You want this to lie flat. And down on the bottom here, you see that it doesn't go right on top of that piece of paper, that piece of Designer Series paper. The valley goes behind it, okay? So we're going to bring this down. You want to make sure this is flush. And you're going to bring this down. And there it is. I've attached it, all right? I'm not going to attach the bottom at this point. I'm going to come in with my hole punch. And I'm just going to simply come in on one end until I can't get it in any farther, and punch. Like I said, I'm pretty strong, so there we go. It does take a little bit of elbow grease. And then I'm going to come in and do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to line it up so that it's straight with this one and push it in until I can't go any farther, and punch. Like I said, if you don't feel that you have the dexterity and the strength to do that, just do it through these two pieces. Or if you don't want to do that at all, just make a regular bow and go for it. So I'm going to curl up the end of my ribbon and punch it through this hole right here. Okay? And then I'm going to do the same with this side. I'll punch it in. Now, I want to be sure that I straighten this out so that it's nice and neat. Okay, now I have a nice straight ribbon there. Okay, see how it's nice and flat? Now I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to take this one that's on the right, and I'm going to feed it backwards, upwards I should say. And I'm going to come out on this side. And again, I want to try to make that as neat as I can. And then I'm going to do the same, taking the piece that's on the left and bringing it up through the hole on the right. It's just a different kind of bow. It does take a little more work, but it's a nice bow. It's just something different. And then we straighten it out like that. We fold it over, and you can either tie it in a bow or tie it in a knot. I'm going to go with just a knot. And with my fabric shears, I'm going to just cut my ends. And there we have our cute little bow. Mine's a little off center there. I'm going to just scooch that over, and now I have to retrim. All right. That's better. Now I want to attach this piece here. And again, like I said, you want to take your valley and push that in. Well, first I'm going to put some adhesive on this side so that it's ready for me. And again, remembering not to put adhesive all the way up to the end, because this is 4 1/4 and my acetate is only 4. So I'm going to push my folded piece in and make sure my acetate sits on that flush. You don't want any buckles, because then it's not going to stand. And you'll see I have a tiny bit left over here. Now remember, I said I cut this at 4 by 5 3/8. Even though the back of this card is 4 by 5 1/2, excuse me, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, you don't want to cut the length of your acetate at 5 1/2, because then it won't sit right and it'll buckle. Okay, so I'm bringing that down, and you see I have a little room there. It's nice and flat, and I'm going to bring this flap over. And now it's going to stand beautifully. And again, I know you can't see that on the camera, but see, there's the inside of it, and it's all nice and neat on the inside. That matters. And it stands up beautifully. Now, because you have decorations on the inside, you need someplace to sign your card. So we're going to do that on the back. And here's where we bring in our 4 by 5 1/4 piece of Whisper White. And with the sentiment from that Tea Together stamp set, I'm just going to ink up my stamp, straight down, straight up. And I just love that bright melon mambo against the white. And I'm going to put a little bit of adhesive and center this. Make sure I have it straight up. Now, you could have done this beforehand. That would have been fine. But it's not a problem to just attach it. What I would not suggest you do is attach this before you stamp. Because if you go stamp on this, it's wobbly and you won't get a nice, crisp image. So, there we have our Mother's Day acetate tent card. And again, it's just so cute and so simple to do. It's just remembering the score lines. And I will have all these measurements on my blog. So there we have it. Isn't that pretty? And it, like I said, it just stands up so beautifully. And a nice place for you to sign in the back. If you have any questions at all about this project or any of the products that I've used, please contact me through my blog, www.stampwithanna.blogspot.com. And the new catalog is coming out, so if you don't have a demonstrator with whom you work and you would like to receive a catalog, I'll probably be getting them mid-May. Certainly contact me through my blog and I'll be happy to drop one in the mail for you. Thanks so much. Have a great day.